And we're off. It's time for another exciting video of Talking All Sports with Spencer. Spencer's topics today include Bubba Wallace at NASCAR and Major League Baseball. So take it away, Spencer.
Well, Bubba Wallace was he was big in the Confederate flag ban in NASCAR, and there was recently a noose found in his garage. He didn't deserve that at all. There was a race, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago, in
Talladega.
Talladega, Alabama, and they pushed his car to the front, which I don't really watch NASCAR. My dad doesn't either. It's kind of a sport that we don't care about. But
we're gonna get letters
well, and then obviously
from Javi too.
This stuff caught our attention. What's going on now around the world, and with Bubba Wallace, very interesting. The FBI is involved, which could mean serious jail time for the criminal. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, there was some late breaking news before we went on air live that don't mind that. That's my timer for my hard-boiled eggs. But in any event, apparently the FBI sent 15 FBI agents down to Talladega, and there's, according to the news reports, there's some pretty convincing photographic evidence that shows that the rope was inside the garage since October of 2019, and it was being used since that time to actually act as some sort of a garage door pull to open and close the garage door. So they've concluded that there was no criminality intended towards anyone, especially Bubba Wallace, as there's absolutely no way of whoever fashioned that rope into the form of a noose in October could have possibly known that in June that particular garage stall would be assigned to Bubba Wallace. So they've concluded that there is no criminality, and that the news reports that investigation is over. But whether or not it was intentional towards anyone, you shouldn't make a rope look like a noose. I mean, I don't understand why you would do that. You would just have if you're going to use a rope to open and close a garage door like somebody would do that lived in a shack, as opposed to one of the most famous racetracks in NASCAR, it would just be a rope with a knot on the end, so when you pulled on it, your hand wouldn't fall off of it. It would just stop at the knot. I don't think you need the noose part or a loop with some spirals behind it. But more importantly, the Confederate flag, I don't get the heritage argument. I mean, I understand their viewpoint that the Confederate flag is heritage. I hear it, but I don't really get how it's heritage. Are they saying that part of their heritage with that flag is that they were treasonous traitors against the United States of America? Because the Confederate flag was flown by an enemy of the United States of America, the Confederate States of America, that fought a war and lost. And people died on both sides. And it was determined that there was not going to be a separate country consisting of mainly southern states, that there was going to be the United States of America. So, I mean, I really don't understand how that's heritage. That's not heritage. That's part of history that shouldn't be forgotten, but also should not be glorified. I mean, in 1939, there was a portion of American individuals that were supporters of the Nazi Party, and they flew the Nazi flag. In fact, they had a Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden in 1939. Now, those people, or their survivors, may say that that's part of their heritage. Should we allow the Nazi flag to fly over Madison Square Garden because it's part of somebody's so-called heritage? I think not. I also believe that the statues, maybe we shouldn't erect statues for anybody. From my reading of history, the individuals that were on the Confederate side, that were leaders of the Confederate Army, did not want statues erected in their honor. And those statues, as everyone knows, were not erected after the Civil War ended. They were erected after civil rights movements in the 1900s began, the early 1900s. So it has nothing to do with anything that happened in the Civil War. It has to do with people wanting things to be the way they were before the Civil War, which is, that's not going to happen. So
Yeah. I think the Confederate flag, it was flown, a plane went over the speedway with the Confederate flag, with the, saying defund NASCAR. And the heritage thing doesn't make much sense. There's a lot of different, people always change the meaning of what the flag is. Someone says it's the meaning for the South. Another one says it's slavery. It's a lot. You can't believe one, but you don't know really what it means. There's a lot of things that people say it means, but they don't really give what it actually means. And it's viewed as an insult to most people when they see that flag, especially African American people. They obviously it supports slavery, and that's not good. And it's really. This whole thing of what happened in Minnesota is really causing, it's affecting sports in a lot of ways. There's been lots of things like the Aunt Jemima pancake mixer the face is gonna change. It's affecting a lot of things. The Black Lives Matter movement is being made fun of in some places. In England, there was a soccer game, Premier League game. A plane flew over a stadium saying "White Lives Matter." Which we're not going to get into because that's politics. But it's really, I think Bubba Wallace was smart to get that flag away from NASCAR, even though he may not be liked by people that fly it. But it is viewed as an insult to most people, and you can't have an insulted flag flying at sporting events because you don't feel welcome, and that's the whole point of sports.
Yeah. Well, I think also the phrase Black Lives Matters and the movement Black Lives Matter, I think people that feel that those words somehow imply that any other life doesn't matter have it wrong. I believe the intention of Black Lives Matter is to point out that Black Lives Matter and black people are important too. Not that white people don't matter or brown people don't matter or green people or yellow people or any other race doesn't matter, but just to point out that their lives matter too. That's really what I believe the purpose of it is, not that black lives are more important than anyone else's life. And I think anyone that perceives it that way, I think is wrong. And some groups, it's interesting because you see some groups like major corporations will sponsor events and they'll have a sign that says, for instance, Con Edison, the utility company in the New York metropolitan area, they sponsor a pedestrian bike route every Sunday on a parkway. They close the parkway and they have bicycles and rollerblades and whatever. And Con Edison is one of the sponsors. And one of the things they have on one of their signs that says, Con Edison is the sponsor, is everything matters. So, that obviously is trying to get your attention to Black Lives Matter. They're trying to say something that probably they shouldn't be saying. Yeah, everything matters, but why are they putting that on their sign? So we don't need to exacerbate things. I think what it is that Black Lives Matter, and that's what they're trying to get people to understand, that Black lives are as equally as important as everybody else's life. Not any less, not any more. That's all it is. So people that politicize everything and take it the wrong way and expound on that are very small-minded people.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, so we're going to move now to baseball.
Uh-huh.
Last night there was, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Robert Manfred implemented a 60-game season, and starting in between July 24th and 26th, which that will start spring training, and they'll start sometime in September. And they'll play 60 games. They didn't mention playoffs, And the players seem that they're going to decline just of what they've been saying, that they don't want to come to Florida or Arizona, mainly because numbers have gone up here and it might not be as safe. Aaron Judge, player for the Yankees, said he wants to play in New York, and which would have been unheard of like a month ago. So that's really, I don't think they're going to accept that, and I think if they don't accept this offer, there'll be no season. Because they're declining every single offer the owners make, the commissioner makes, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be a season.
Yeah. Well, my argument is the same as it was with when they were proposing moving the season out to particular locations in Arizona and sort of quarantining all the players and playing in front of no fans. I really don't think where it matters where they're going to play. I don't think they should play. So, and as I said, I don't think the stars are going to agree to play anywhere. The guys that are getting multi-million-dollar contracts that are very well heeled and have a large amount of money and are established in the league are simply just going to say, I'm not playing. And that's it. If you're sitting on the end of the bench and you're holding on to a lifeline to get into the major leagues, you're going to want to play. You'll probably take a risk and you'll go to play. But it just strikes me as bizarre that they're hell bent to force a square peg into a round hole by having a baseball game or a baseball season, which is going to be ridiculously short. They haven't played in 3 months. There's a reason why spring training is 2 months long, so that everybody can get back into a particular type of shape to play. None of these guys have really been working out at all to any extent, as far as I understand. And it's just bizarre to me. I mean, yeah, now it's curious how New York has become the textbook model on how to contain an out of control contagious disease, and states like Florida and Arizona who decided to theorize that the virus was fake or didn't take any measures to contain it whatsoever. Now, when New York is reopening and has practically no cases anymore, they're in the opposite position. They're in the position that the virus is spiraling out of control, and they're going to have to take drastic measures if they don't want to see tens of thousands of people die, the way they died in New York and New Jersey for the first 3 months of the pandemic.
Yeah, it's certainly very interesting to hear that players want to play in the epicenter. It's not much of an epicenter anymore, even though it has the most cases in the country. When there's been 100 cases every day,
Right.
And the states that the sports want to go to have had 4,000 every day. It's interesting. It's very interesting, and I don't think the players want to come to a spot. Like if the Mets and the Yankees, they're finally, they're out of really the thick of it. And why would they want to come back down if they come to Florida, which doctors have been saying could be the new epicenter of
Right.
the virus in the country? Why would they want to go there when they just came from one?
Right.
It wouldn't make sense, and they wouldn't want to do it. Like you said, guys like Aaron Judge, Stanton, Mike Trout, they're not going to want to come here. Now, guys maybe that are in AAA, that have been in the major leagues before but are down there now, they're going to want to play. And if they don't play, they might not be in the major leagues ever again. And then this is their chance, and they're going to take it.
Yep.
But the guys that are in the starting lineup every game for teams like the Astros, Cubs, Yankees, Dodgers, they're going to want to play. And they're not going to say, or they're not going to want to play. They're going to say, no, we don't want to take a risk. We're getting paid all this money. We don't want to die from this virus. While the younger players, like college kids, are going to want to go to areas to play. But it might not be as safe as some other states. There's a lot of college fields in Florida. And there's a lot of high school fields in Florida. I'm not sure about Arizona. I'm sure there was a lot. There's only one team there, though, one Major League Baseball team. Florida has two. It has the Rays and the Marlins. And that is really going to be interesting. They have a lot of college fields, minor league fields. Yeah, they have the Florida League, which is where the Tortugas play. So they could use those fields. But like I said, I don't think players are going to want to come to Florida or Arizona where cases have spiked. If they're coming from like California, New York, where it's finally starting to calm down,
Right.
they're not going to come here.
I don't think they should. I just saw something also. Novak Djokovic last week sponsored a tennis tournament because tennis is basically canceled. His own tennis tournament in Serbia, and most of the players were within driving distance of where the tournament was held. I'm not exactly sure of the city, but it was a small tournament that didn't allow a lot of spectators. And I just saw on the news that he contracted the virus.
Mm-hmm. And
So
he's a very big tennis player. He's
Right.
in almost every Open, Wimbledon, Australia, U.S. Open. He's always in at least the last couple rounds. And he might not win all the time. I find him as a crybaby when he's losing. He quits. But he sponsored a tennis tournament 2 weeks ago in Serbia, and he today tested positive for the virus. So that's story that's going to be interesting to see.
yeah.
how
Well,
it
I think
goes.
that's another reason why organized sports should not continue or should not start up. It's just not that important. What's the difference? The season is over anyway. So we're already at the 4th of July. Normally we'd be talking about the All-Star game
Right.
in baseball. So
And the NBA and the three sports that I think should never even have thought of coming back is the football, NFL, NBA, and all the soccer leagues around the world. All three of those sports are extremely dangerous to play to begin with, and then now when we have a pandemic going on, why would they even bother? It's the money, but the money is not important. The NFL is very dangerous. They're right in front of each other's faces, breathing. And it's for not just 1 second, it's for 6 seconds until the quarterback gets rid of the ball. And the NBA, too, they're going to be coming to Orlando, Florida. And some of them don't want to do it anymore because of the numbers going up in the wrong direction.
well, it's definitely high risk.
And some other guy, an ESPN analyst, said, why don't they go to New York?
Yeah, well, you know what? The traveling is the problem. I mean, these guys are all over the country, and they're going to travel to play, a game that nobody's going to watch. Quite frankly, no one really cares. The season is basically over, and there's a huge risk. I mean, nobody wants to see anybody, spread the disease or get sick or, pass away from it. And the chances of it happening are just too great. It's too great of a risk. It's an invisible killer. And it doesn't discriminate based on who you are, where you are, your economic status, your social status, your race, your creed, your color, state lines. It doesn't see those. It's looking for a host to kill. And what it kills is humans. And that's what it's looking for. And it's here. It's here for I think everybody should take the position that it's here to stay. Because until there's a vaccine to cure it, it's here to stay. And it's still going to be deadly. The one other thing I wanted to say before we close up, because we have to end, is I think right now there is one man that could end the presidential campaign. There is one person that if he was nominated in an open convention, which I believe is permitted under the rules and under the law, to run for president, would win every single state, and Donald Trump and Joe Biden would get a handful of votes compared to that person. That person's Andrew Cuomo. He would win the presidency in a landslide, unprecedented in American history, if he were to throw his hat in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job with New York. I never heard of him before until he went on TV every day. And he, coming from, right now they have 399,000 cases, I think, in just one city. And that's New York City.
The whole state.
Or the whole state?
Yeah.
And that numbers has gone down, actually. I think numbers have gone up 50%. And he's done a good job with it. I thought you were going to say LeBron James, because I would like to see him run for president. I think he'd be a good president. He's just a good guy. But I think Cuomo, he said he didn't want to do it, but I think he would be good. Vice president, maybe? Who knows? He said no to that also. But we're gonna wrap it up. We're hitting the 20-minute mark. So we will see everybody. We'll probably have a new video tomorrow or the next day. All right.
Okay, adios.
Bye bye.